So I could, like wake up, take a shower, and have a normal person day. But instead, I think I'm just going to try to win the game on turn one every game. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Before I get started here, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who played games with me or said hello or asked things to get signed in Atlanta. Command Fest Atlanta was an absolute blast, and I am looking forward to the opportunity to do that again. Today, we are playing Unfair Magic. Maybe some of the most unfair Magic that you could be playing right now. It's kind of funny that I have to say maybe because Nadu and Necrodominance are also running around right now and are both incredibly powerful combo or even control engines. But today we are going to be playing some Oops All spells courtesy of Plum Wizard. And I've taken a little bit of liberties with their list because there's been some innovation in the archetype since when this was submitted a few weeks ago. So this is what current Oops All spells is looking like, or more accurately, this is one of the current builds, and it is the one that I think is more interesting. I don't know about better, because I'm not, involved in that Discord community or whatever, but adding Grief to the deck, and I know, I can hear your eye rolls from here, adding Grief to the deck is now possible. It wasn't really possible before we got this other set of modal double-faced cards that are black cards on the front and lands on the back. Now, Oops All Spells does not really want to cast a 3/1 for 3 mana. It does not really want to pay 4 mana to destroy a creature. And when you look at a lot of the mana here, a lot of this mana is temporary, either in Ritual or Lotus Petal form. There are a decent number of lands, I guess. 12 is a number. But you're not really wanting to cast these cards. The fact that they are black means that they can be pitched to Grief, they can be imprinted under a Chrome Mox. And Oops All Spells previously was playing a smattering of blue, black, and green lands of the cycle that Agadeem's Awakening is from. Now you can max out on the mono black versions of this. And Grief in particular does something kind of dirty here. It allows you to culling the weak. So, turn 1, you're on the play, you Grief pitching some black card. You take one of your opponent's pieces of interaction. You then cast Culling the Weak, you get to 4 mana immediately by sacrificing the Grief before the evoke trigger goes off. 4 mana is enough to get you to either Balustrade Spy or Undercity Informer plus activate. Either way, you target yourself, mill your entire library, Narcomoebas hit the graveyard, return to play, you sacrifice them to Dread Return, and bam, Thassa's Oracle. So on our turn 1, we are going to protect our combo via Grief or Pact of Negation. If we don't have another turn, there's no downside on this spell. And a lot of times, if your combo doesn't work, you're just dead anyway, so, this is fine. Now, this deck is also playing Entomb. So, if you need protection, you Entomb your Grief and reanimate your Grief. If you don't feel like you need protection, you just Entomb a Spy and reanimate your Spy, and that gives you another way to combo. So, Black Source, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Reanimate gets you to your combo in the same way that a bunch of mana and either Spy or Informer would get you. So this is an incredibly redundant, incredibly fast combo deck. I have not played against this version, so I'm really looking forward to trying it myself. As far as the sideboard goes, we have a Goblin Charbelcher Plan B, or when our graveyard-based shenanigans just seem like they are not going to happen. And notably, we don't have true lands in our deck. So we're going to reveal cards from the top of our deck until we reveal a land. We'll reveal everything that's left in our deck, and then we'll deal damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to any target, our opponent's face. So yeah, we can board in Lion's Eye Diamond as a way to activate Goblin Charbelcher and board out some portion of the stuff in here. I haven't really thought about what I'm boarding out. I'm sure it works out somehow. If we are expecting a bunch of discard or other targeted things, we can also Leyline of Sanctity as well. And then we have Feed the Swarm for if we want to answer creatures or enchantments. So let's go ahead and hop into things. If you find you need some cards, TOA Magic is a great place to go. You can use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. And I can tell you that I sold them a bunch of cards this weekend and was very happy with it. It's actually kind of a funny story. Short version is one of my fellow teachers gave me their Magic collection. It was like, yeah, you can have these. You play Magic. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. These might be worth money. And they were indeed worth money. There were a bunch of like Ristic studies and stuff like that in there. So I'm going to go on a very, very nice sushi meal evening with one of my coworkers sometime in the not too distant future. So thanks, Tales of Adventure. Let's battle. Okay, we have no payoff card here. I could just like Grief and Reanimate and try to make that go all the way, but that's not really what my deck is trying to do. Especially in game one, I would rather just try to win the game. All right, how much mana do we have here? Chromox, Imprint a Spy, play a land, play a land. I only have access to 3 mana. This can eventually attempt a win. I think I'm going to go to 5. Yes. So do I get to have protection? So Undercity Informer, Boggart Trawler, Culling the Weak. So untapped land, 1 mana. Grief, Itch Entomb. That's free. This trigger on the stack, Culling the Weak, and to activate. So this is going to be a turn 1 win attempt with protection after mulliganing twice. Seems perfectly fair. Pay the life. Grief, Itch Entomb. Evoke on bottom. Is there free counter magic over there? There's not. Michael, good on you for fighting the good fight. However, trigger on the stack. Sacrifice Grief, 4 mana. There's Undercity Informer. Sacrifice. Target myself. I do actually want to sacrifice it to its own ability. Now I'm going to put all these Narcomoebas in play. And that's good enough. My opponent knows what's coming here. So my opponent is a discard gamer, which means Leyline of Sanctity is very strong. So from there, I also need to expect either Surgical Extraction or Leyline of the Void. My opponent is definitely in Brew territory, so we won't know which. I could go down on some amount of the graveyard package to bring in Goblin Charbelcher and Lion's Eye Diamond. Or I could just feed the Swarm to potentially get rid of Leyline. And this is where I don't have the reps to know for sure. I am 100% sure that I want these. It feels sort of like Cabal Therapy doesn't matter. My opponent's got Surgical. While my Cabal Therapy is on the stack, they can just Surgical and like take out my Oracle or whatever. So this feels cuttable. Unmask as Grief number 5 feels cuttable. If I get rid of Grief, I'm also getting rid of Culling the Weak. I can just keep Entomb Reanimate to get this stuff going. And I could have 2 plans in here. That way, if I get Leylined, I have another way to win. And then I cut 1 other random card for a Leyline of Sanctity. Like, go down 1 Entomb. My opponent's going to make me just discard spies and stuff anyway. This seems okay. And then hopefully in game 2, if I lose, I learn what graveyard hate my opponent is playing. This hand only has 2 mana. I feel like I get stuck too much of the time to want to keep this. I think with double Goblin Charbelcher here against a discard deck, I just keep this one. I'll get rid of Pact of Negation. Are you gonna leyline me? Opponent's already on 5 cards. Now, a weird thing here is that my lands can eat discard spells, yeah. However, my opponent is going to try to attack both Goblin Charbelchers. Lotus Petal is perfectly fine. So I have like Hymn to Turok and Targeted Discard to think about. Targeted Discard takes Charbelcher, land in the Hymn to Turok, has less of a chance of hitting Charbelcher if I keep this Lotus Petal in hand. So I think I'm going to keep it in hand. There's the land drop. There's the hymn. Hey, we discarded the Lotus Petal rather than a Goblin Charbelcher. That is fantastic. We drew another Goblin Charbelcher. Nothing to reanimate. We are getting Thought Seized. This is fine. And now we are looking to draw something like a Dark Ritual to get us to the Charbelcher. My opponent has no cards available. So this is just a top deck war in which a decent portion of my deck is just mana. We are looking to dodge probably a win condition. Castle Lockdwain is now online. Our draws are not great currently. Note that if I get another land, I can just start beating my opponent to death with 2/3s, you know. They are in that Pox design space where sometimes that deck will just lose. Still just hanging on to my Goblin Charbelcher for dear life. Or they will just lose to some random bad beaters. Well, that's awkward. I will discard an artifact card rather than 2 cards. That is not currently castable. That is a downside of not playing the blue lands. An opponent just passing the turn. My deck is absolutely not cooperating with me. My opponent will lose some life. They are going to have to eventually present a win condition. I guess I should also be asking what is the red for. Could be something like Kroxa, could be something like red sideboard cards like Meltdown. You'll know targets for Reanimate. I'm not willing to continue drawing cards with Castle Lockdwain. And we have a fetch. Oh, that's what it's for. So how many Charbelchers do I have left? I have 1 Goblin Charbelcher left that I am drawing towards, unfortunately. Good news is these come into play untapped and don't cost me life. I think at this point I'm going to fast forward this match because it is going to be like a while before I draw a 1 in 46 chance at having a way to win the game. My opponent has found a threat. It is legitimately good to know about that. Okay, so I have found a Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal notably means that I can put a 2/3 blocker into play and stop taking damage from the Spirit Guide, so this game is going to continue on very slowly. Never mind. To turn on my Reanimate, I'm going to do this targeting my opponent. Yes. Urza's Saga as a win condition makes sense. Okay, it is now turn 17. I'm going to again attempt to play a creature that can stop this Simian Spirit Guide from just repeatedly punching me in the face. My opponent hasn't played a card in a few turns, so it would not surprise me if there is another Lightning Bolt here. Ooh, cool, there is not. There is a Molten Collapse instead. Like before, I think I am just going to go ahead and try to mill my opponent, see if I can hit something viable for a Reanimate. We just keep hitting Urza Sagas. Notably, it looks like my opponent is playing multiple Blood Moons alongside Urza Saga, and the Blood Moon will just destroy the Urza Saga. So here's actually an interesting decision. If I were to draw an untapped black source of some kind, I could just play this as a blocker. I think I'm going to hold this one in hand. Goodbye, Boggart Trawler. The punish for that is like the next card being the remaining Charbelcher. I am at 4 and on the brink of death. Oh, my opponent needs a Dark Ritual. Oh, for a smallpox. That's kind of rough. My opponent is losing their threat in doing that, though. I don't know if that is wise. Like, this may give me much more time. Like, they have 0 cards. I don't know that I like that line. Like, I am on 3 lands anyway. I can't Charbelcher. Yeah, so, there we go. That is exactly what I was just talking about. I am passing the turn here. That Thassa's Oracle is probably never getting into play. About the best that can do at this point is get imprinted under a Chrome Mox. Well, I mean, I guess I'll imprint the Pact of Negation first. Yeah. Hello, Narcomoeba. Welcome to the party. 7-turn clock. Lightning Bolt my face will do it. Turn 21. So, now I know that Blood Moon is a major portion of my opponent's plan. And I can decide whether or not I want to have Feed the Swarm to answer Blood Moon, or if I just want to deal with it. It looks like my opponent is incredibly bad at winning the game. Like, Urza's Saga, which is an enchantment, looks like about the only way that they win. So boarding this in is maybe fine. And no joke, if I get leylined and I can't answer it, I might just be able to beat my opponent to death with my creatures. Let's maybe get rid of Lion's Eye Diamond. Keep the Charbelchers and run it like this. I'm not really sure if this deck should sideboard in this many cards. Okay, so this is just Chrome Mox, imprint something, Lotus Petal, Entomb, Reanimate with protection on turn 1. If my opponent leylines, I just Feed the Swarm it and then try to go off the following turn. I am good with this. Multiple leylines would be pretty brutal. Okay, so we do have an initial leyline. I think that's fine. So I will Chrome Mox, I will imprint one of the Reanimates. And I am just going to Feed the Swarm on this right now. And we'll see whether or not we are in for a long game. If my opponent discards this Entomb, which is pretty likely, then I get slowed down a lot. Fetch for Thoughtseize. Fetch for Dark Ritual. This Liliana is incredibly slow as a win condition. I'm not too worried about that. Let's see if we draw a black source and just win the game. We do not, so my opponent will have a chance to take my Reanimate. Sure. That's fine. Any black source wins the game? That's not a black source. Oh, fuck. I'm an idiot. I was supposed to Entomb end of turn. Okay, so I should have already won. Bowmasters are fine. Welcome to another edition of Mistakes You Make When You Are Narrating Your Opponent's Play Rather Than Focusing on Your Game. As always, I am your host, Phil Gallagher. Yep. Urza Saga is fine. I'll take 2. End of turn Entomb. A Spy in Graveyard. I need to Dark Ritual for any reason. No Mana Tithe type nonsense. I can't think of a reason why I need to Dark Ritual, so I'm just going to Reanimate. Alright, Reanimate, target Spy. Opponent has 1 card. Target myself. Put 4 Narcomoebas into play. Alright, we have gotten the GG from my opponent here. So, a little sloppy on my end, but we got there.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out.
Okay, I don't know if I should keep this hand. I have 3 lands and a way to win, plus 2 pieces of protection, but this is just slow. I think I'm going to try to win game 1 faster. This is 1 mana. No, let's go to 5. We did a turn 1 on 5 last time anyway. So, land, Dark Ritual, land. This is quite a bit of mana to start with. Do I just keep this 5 and work towards drawing 1 of my 8 combo pieces? I'm going to do some informal math here. So I have way more mana than I do good top decks. I will probably just go to 4 rather than keep this. Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Undercity Informer. I have a win with 1 more mana. Actually, is there a Grief line on 4? Grief, pitch some block. No, I need 5 cards to do that. Okay. I'm going to keep the second Undercity Informer in case the first one doesn't work. So now, another thing I don't know from experience is whether or not I just jam this and pass the turn. I would prefer to activate this at the same time, but I could just, like, lose it to counter spells, or sorry, to discard spells, or, like, a daze gets opened up if I wait. So I'm going to go ahead and jam here. All right, it is in play, and we'll need a mana source to win. Verdant Catacombs. Discard? Elvish Reclaimer. Yeah, sure, that's fine. It's a lot less fine if I don't draw a mana source. Fuck, okay. So now Bojuka Bog is live for the rest of the game. Okay, I should say is presumably live for the rest of the game. I don't know for sure that my opponent is playing Bojuka Bog, but I think it's a safe assumption that they're on Bojuka Bog. So since my opponent had double fetch land, this is also like Schrodinger's 3-4, so I can't attack anymore. Sure. Now my opponent admittedly does need to just hold up. Ooh, reanimates, sure. Hold up the Elvish Reclaimer activation, I think, for the rest of the game. I don't think that will be too hard. I think this one is lost, and it is just a matter of time. I am so far away from using this as a spell that I am just going to play it as a land. I could Cull the Weak, produce a flyer, and try to attack and win that way. I don't think I like that plan. I think a couple turns down the line, I am just going to eat a 20/20 to the face. Oh, it's not Dryad Arbor being sacrificed. Ah, I see. Ah, it's a white of the Reliquary deck. Oh god, okay. So my opponent is probably in the Reclaimer Elves territory rather than in a, like, Death's Knight of the Reliquary adjacent territory. This also just tutors up land. Reanimate. I think this one is lost enough that I am just going to move to the next game. So my opponent has so many ways to tutor up a Bojuka Bog at instant speed. That's not the greatest. Bojuka Bog targets player, right? That's how that card works. So I could Leyline of Sanctity as my way to potentially deal with that. I don't think Goblin Charbelcher plus Activate is very easy, because my opponent is going to have access to Wasteland and ways to tutor it up. Let's do some trimming around the edges. Maybe like Therapy, Unmask, 1 Culling the Weak, 1 Pact of Negation. What is my opponent going to do for Graveyard Hate? I mean, I guess Endurance also targets player, right? Alright, we're covered. Entomb plus Dread Return technically gets me there, but this is this fast enough? So it's 2 lands. It is 4 mana on turn 2. The imprinting is a little awkward. Like, in theory, I want to take the Narcomoeba out of hand, but that means that I have blue under there, which means that I can't Entomb into Dread Return. I'd have to use the Lotus Petal here. Yeah, let's try to do better than that. Hey. So it's going to be a keep. I get rid of Pact of Negation. Start the game with Leyline of Sanctity in play. I think I'm okay with Grief, Pitch, Reanimate, and just work towards putting Undercity Informer in play. I don't think I want to try to win this game with a single Grief. I don't think that's realistic. So let's Grief, Pitch, Reanimate. Oh! Force of Vigor takes out my Leyline. Well, that's inconvenient for me. I can play around Mindbreak Trap if I know about it. Okay. That's my first spell. And I'll just play out Lotus Petal. So now I can just do something like Undercity Informer, sacrifice, no Cabal Therapy, just Dread Return, and that just completely dodges Mindbreak Trap. Another Force of Vigor goes away. Sure. Dark Ritual off the top. Grief off the top. Not interested. All right. Everything's a Bayou. Well, pseudo Bayou. What is my opponent going to have in terms of actual factual removal spells? There's probably not that many Abrupt Decay type cards. There could be an Edict. I don't know that the Edict makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and put it in play so I don't lose it to potential discard. It's also just potentially splits my spells up a little better. All right, cool. No Edict. Okay, so I can Grief, that's spell 1. I can Dread Return, that's spell 2. We completely play around Mindbreak Trap still. See what else is going on over there. See if there's anything weird. That's so much Mindbreak Trap. I'll take Force of Vigor. Now we'll do this thing. Put all the Narcomoebas in play. And we will Dread Return, targeting Thassa's Oracle as spell number 2. Just completely dodge my opponent's 3 Mindbreak Traps. And win the game. Fantastic. Alright, so Force of Vigor and Mindbreak Trap, in addition to the whole Bojuka Bog nonsense. Force of Vigor means that the Goblin Charbelcher stuff is definitely rough. I think I'm going to go down one more Culling the Week for another Unmask. Because, like, Grief, Culling the Week, spell is Mindbreak Trap turned on. Yeah, let's gain a little bit more ability to attack my opponent's hand here. 1 mana, 2 mana. I have a Pact of Negation to protect against something. I need 2 mana sources to go off. We can maybe do better. Okay, so here is a Leyline of Sanctity. I have 1 mana, 2 mana. Extra thing to put under it. Pact to protect against a Mindbreak Trap on a combo turn. On 6, I am going to say that this is good enough. I'm going to think for a second about whether or not I want to just get rid of Pact. Grief is just a black card that could go under Chrome Mox, so my second Undercity Informer doesn't go under there. Get rid of the Grief. Alright, so discard spells are off. Veilland is fine and good. Opponent unfortunately likes their card. Because of Force of Vigor, I don't think I immediately play out Chrome Mox. Also gives me time to draw non-Undercity Informer black cards. Second land drop. Hierarch's fine. So this is the 4 mana to attempt to go off with Pact of Negation backup. That sounds fine to me. We'll imprint one of the Narcomoebas here. My opponent fires off Force of Vigor. I think I Pact of Negation in response. That's a generous, and haven't seen one of those in a while. Now, I could also just wait. This is spell 1. This would be spell 2. Like, my spells will be Mindbreak Trappable if I move forward here. Yeah, maybe I just play... I'm not guaranteed to be able to go off next turn, and I think things get worse for me. Oh, wow, they give you a little notification. Yeah, no, I'm committing to this. Imprint, Narcomoeba, Dark Ritual, sacrifice this, targeting me. Sacrificing this to its own ability. Now, I only have 3 of the 4 Narcomoebas here, so I don't get to Cabal Therapy because one's under the Chrome Mox. Okay, we do just win. GG's. Alright, what am I working with here? So, land drop, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, imprint, something. This is 3 of the 4 mana that I need to win. I am on the draw. There is a good chance that I draw a Grief or another piece of artifact mana that lets me just go off on turn 1 with this. I think I'll keep this one. I could also just draw Reanimate, and we have that way. Like, Reanimate is insane, Grief is insane. Lotus Petal will do it. Let's just kind of see how the cards play out. Alright. That is another Spy. I think I'm going to Chrome Mox and just imprint the Culling the Week. I'm going to put stuff into play. Not pay the life. So I can, at my opponent's end step, Entomb to put a Spy into Graveyard. Rolls fine. Finding another basic swamp. So it looks like we were playing against a mono black aggro deck of some kind. A Douthie Voidwalker here would be a problem. Thoughtseize, target me, huh? So this is going to take a Spy. I think in response, I do just go ahead. I regret this immediately. Because Reanimate, target me could be live to mill me. I guess that's already live, right? And a Spy is already going to my graveyard. I just put a Narcomoeba directly into play. Yeah, let's do that. But I think casting Entomb was a mistake. I hold it in case my next card is Chrome Mox. Then I have a black card under there. Oh, I lost the Pact of Negation instead. Sure. Well, I got a Pact of Negation right back. We'll start pressuring my opponent's life total. It's not like this is nothing, because my opponent is presumably a Reanimate deck. I end up just losing this Narcomoeba to an Orcish Bowmasters. This is not the stuff that I want to be drawing here. Damn. It is an Orcish Bowmasters. You got it. I will be taking 2 damage a turn from this. I don't super care about this damage. Dauthi Voidwalker's the big scary one. 18. Stalker is fine. Wonder if my opponent is on Nether Goyf. I don't know, maybe with the Entomb, I still just Entomb a Spy anyway, because if my opponent has Reanimate, they can just take a Spy from my hand and reanimate me, and then having the Spy in Graveyard means that if I do top deck a reanimation spell later, it is live. I was conceptually thinking of my opponent going after both Spies over time, and they just kept one out of my graveyard, which was a very heads-up play. I don't remember if I said that already. Alright, 3 damage, 15. Pass on the turn. There is a 3rd land? I don't know, I guess, like, it's Reanimate specifically, not Dread Return that matters, right? Because this is just 4 mana anyway, and this is 4 mana. I am getting griefed. I've lost the Thassa's Oracle. There is Dauthi Voidwalker. That feels unbeatable with this much power in play. We need some sort of like 8 mana situation where like I play a Spy. How much am I taking? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I draw a Dark Ritual. I have 3, 4, 5 mana. No, I'm still alive. I need to draw Dark Ritual. So if I draw Dark Ritual, I Dark Rit, play Spy, mill myself, Culling the Weak Spy, and then Dread Return. There's another Grief. My opponent takes either one of these cards, that does me in, and I think the Dread Return feels pretty obvious. If they take Dread Return, does Reanimate do it? No. Act of Negation. Alright, I am dead on board. Alright, I mean, we made it to turn 7. We were live in that one for quite some time. I probably want to be thinking about Feed the Swarm and Leyline of Sanctity. Leyline of Sanctity could hit Leyline of the Void and also can hit Dauthi Voidwalker. I'm not super excited about Grief, which means I'm not super excited about Culling Ritual. That can be these 7 cards. I could fill with just another black card for Chrome Box purposes. Or I could play like a Goblin Charbelcher to just have an out that does not mess with my graveyard. Let's keep 1 Grief in there. So this is 1 land. I don't think this is functional. This has no payoff card, which is the most important part of the hand. Like, I've got mana for days, but we're not trying to win with Boggart Trawler beats. I am getting low enough on resources that I maybe start just thinking about keeping this like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not excited about it. Alright. Leyline's in play. Opponent does not have an opposing Leyline, so I guess that's good. I think Entomb is mana. So I am just going to play it as such and pass the turn. If my opponent... I guess my opponent's not going to make me discard, right? That doesn't make sense with Leyline in play. Dark Ritual? I don't think I am going to expect to win the game with a 3-1 against Bowmasters.deck. I'm just going to play this as mana. Alright. That is a Grief. The first portion of the trigger does not work. The second portion of the trigger doesn't work. Nullrod's damn good, though. Let's top deck. Combo payoff card. Negative. I still have 4 mana. I can still do my thing. I'm only on a 7-turn clock. And some number of Thoughtseize type cards might just get stuck in my opponent's hand. Yeah. This seems good. Dark Ritual. Undercity Informer. Target me. Sacrifice a creature. Sacrifice it to its own ability. There's a bunch of Narcomoebas. I have the Cabal Therapy, so I might as well use it. Just name like a surgical extraction or something. My opponent can fire it off in response. Maybe Mindbreak Trap then. It doesn't really matter unless they have multiple of something. I'll still just name surgical extraction. Yeah, there's one Mindbreak Trap, that's fine. Red Return, Thassa's Oracle. Bam. 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 You Mindbreak Trap. I Pact of Negation. And we all move on with our lives. So I know about Null Rod, which means that the Goblin Charbelcher stuff in the sideboard is definitely where it belongs. Now know about Mindbreak Trap. I can sometimes play around that, and it becomes a good Cabal Therapy target. This is a theoretical turn 1. Unmask, target myself, do Spy, Reanimate Spy. I don't know that I'm going to go for it, but it is a theoretical turn 1 win. Opponent gets a land. That's fine. There is a Grief. I've lost Agadeem's Awakening, which makes sense to me. A second Grief. They can make me lose Lotus Petal. And they do. So I have a turn 1 if I top deck a black source. What did they pitch here? Be the Swarm and Dark Ritual. Uh-oh. That's not the best. If I unmask myself and put Spy into Graveyard, a Reanimate just kills me, so I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to pass the turn. This does mean, you know, a Reanimate on their end could mess with me a little bit. Well, so if I Reanimate Spy, that is a body. The 2 Narcomoebas that are remaining in deck are 2 more bodies, so I can't go off with protection, but I can go off. That seems fine. So, target myself, pitch a Reanimate, spell 1, discard Spy. Spell 2 is Reanimate on Spy. It is a fairy. You got it. This sets me back considerably. I want to add Grief, Fairy. They don't have a threat in play. My Narcomoebas are pretty close to dead cards in hand. Wow, my opponent junked a fairy? That's such a good draw, though. Alright, I can entomb yet another Narcomoeba into play if I want to start attacking my opponent. Yeah. Life's hard. I'm gonna get wastelanded, attacked for 3 per turn. I lose the Narcomoeba as well. Don't get to search anymore. I think I am realistically dead. So I get hit for 5. I'm at 9. I get 1 more draw beyond this. Yeah, this is not gonna do it. No trophy for me. GG's. Okay, so I have 3 Pact of Negations. I have only 1 mana. I could do the Giga Brain play of I'm on the draw. I could just discard Balustrade Spy and play my land on turn 2 into Reanimate with triple Pact of Negation backup. However, if my opponent opens up on a discard spell, I cannot overstate the levels of fucked that I am. But let's keep it. Let's keep it. I think I accept the triple protected turn 2 kill with some strings attached. We could also just like top deck a Grief and potentially win on turn 1. Yeah, so pass the turn. Spy to Graveyard. Hopefully we don't die to Reanimate. Yeah. Second land drop. Ah, fuck. Yeah, so I can Pact of Negation this. That doesn't do any good. So assuming that my opponent targets me successfully, I am dead. And I'm not going to show them my deck list. That's a little disappointing, but that's a risk of the current format. So I can Leyline of Sanctity for Grief-related nonsense. That's probably about all I will do. Been cutting Unmask every round. I think I'll continue to do that. Do I need the Cabal Therapy? Kind of feels like the interaction happens right here with the counterspell type stuff most of the time. Maybe I go like bam bam. Possible that the Entomb is scary enough that I don't know, it's such a tight package. The Entomb is definitely risky, as we just saw. I guess the same thing just happens when my stuff gets countered. Let's not play the therapy. This hand does not do anything. And has 2 Narcomoebas in hand, which isn't the greatest. This hand also doesn't do anything. And it like awkwardly has the Dread Return in hand. Maybe I shouldn't be willy-nilly trimming the Cabal Therapy in case I ever draw my Oracle. I don't know that I want to keep the 0 mana hand. So land, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Reanimate is an attempt at a turn 1 win. My opponent has 7 cards. I am certainly keeping the hand. I could also just turn 1 Dark Ritual, play this, keep Reanimate, leave Entomb out of the equation after I've gone down some cards already. Yeah, I think I like that better. 17 life, Dark Ritual, Force of Negation. So that's fine. My stuff gets stuck here a little bit. If I had gone the Entomb route, I would still have Entomb in hand. I lose Reanimate here. Oh, I'm losing an Informer. Does that mean my opponent has a Reanimate and they are just going to do the thing? It does, so I am dead on board. My opponent just activates this, targets me, and I die. Reanimate does not get me there. Yep. That matchup feels rough. Like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and Grief, Reanimate / Animate Dead to take my stuff out of graveyard and mill me out. Rough. We're already to round 5 here. I don't think my hand does anything. I can put things into graveyard. I can't quickly take things out of graveyard. Can't reanimate a Grief. I'll just mulligan this one. Land, Dark Ritual, Chrome Mox. Put something under Chrome Mox. Probably like a Reanimate. Cast this. Maybe get rid of Reanimate. So land, Dark Ritual, Chrome Mox, something under Chrome Mox, Spy, keep Grief. If I draw a black card, I have protection. This seems actively good. Am I getting chaliced? I am. That's not that big of a deal, but it will objectively slow me down a lot. It means that I can't Dark Ritual, or Culling the Weak for that matter. Let's go ahead and Grief to just physically take some threat or follow-up spell out of hand. Okay, so Vexing Bauble is currently stranded in hand due to Chalice of the Void, so that's good. Chalice of the Void could come down on 0. That's not the best for me. I don't care about, like, 2, because I will just Dread Return the Thassa's Oracle. I think I'm just taking the threat. So this turn, I will go ahead and Chrome Mox. I'm going to imprint the uncastable 1-drop, play a land, and pass the turn. I really think I need to win game 1 here. Yeah. Okay. Alright, there is a threat from my opponent, so it looks like we are playing against an Eldrazi Stompy deck. I know my opponent's last card is Elvish Spirit Guide. If I Grief this, I can't get hit by a Reality Smasher next turn. So I think I will play around that exact line, despite the fact that this is not an exciting exchange of resources. Goodbye. The downside of doing this is if my opponent Thought-Knot Sears me, I lose my combo enabler instead of still having a combo enabler. But Reality Smasher kills me so incredibly quickly, especially when I consider that I probably need to deal 3 damage to myself at some point in this league. Reanimate is not a live card. I'm a Force of Vigor deck, question mark? Nope, not this build. So this does not destroy artifacts, it destroys enchantments. The draw last turn was Reality Smasher. Oh no, it was selling Mycospawn. Yeah, well, keeping that from happening last turn, also kind of a big deal. So, am I live anymore? I don't think I'm live anymore, right? So, I take 6, I draw a land. I take 6, I draw a land. Now I am unfortunately dead to that. I think it's very, very difficult to win 2 post-sideboard games here. So I'm expecting my opponent to also be bringing in Chalice of the Void here. And I can't really answer fucking Vexing Bauble. Oh, God. When I'm on the play, I can potentially Grief discard it. I think I need to sideboard in some capacity. There's also just Wastelands, too. Like, I can tech against Leyline specifically with Feed the Swarm, and it can just double as a way to take a creature off the battlefield. I just want to do this, though. Maybe this is game 3 when I'm on the draw. Maybe game 2 is like, have answer to Leyline. I am unsure. It kind of feels like everything does something that is important. This is an insane amount of acceleration. I'm going to say that this is the most expendable thing. So, Pact of Negation probably could have gone versus this deck. That was an error in sideboarding. From Mox, whatever, the hands that keep, my opponent can do their mulligans. I guess I can't sequence this until I know whether or not my opponent has a Leyline. They don't have a Leyline, I just win. Okay, they do have multiple Leylines, in fact. So now I am hoping to reanimate one of my opponent's creatures. Let's Grief. Pitching Entomb. Why don't you play creatures? I will Chromox imprint a Reanimate and pass. I'm probably not easily getting through double Leyline. When I get 1 more mana, I can hardcast this Grief. Hopefully take a creature that gets stuck in their hand and then have a Reanimate as a follow-up play. Chalice of the Void here would be brutal. Ah, it's a Chalice of the Void. Can't beat the top of the deck. Eye of Ugin, sure. So all these cards are off. This one too. Sure. And we'll just put this into play in case another Chalice comes down in a bit. What would the Pact of Negation be? Just thinking about it. Be Culling the Weeks. Yikes. So now there's a real threat. I lose the Grief here. I am realistically not going to draw enough mana sources and feed the Swarms to eliminate 2 Leylines. My Reanimates are off. I can't answer Chalice. I think at this point I'm just dead. We will take our 2-3 finish. GG's. Okay, so let's talk about this deck. Let's resort this here. So in terms of raw Goldfish speed, this deck Goldfishes incredibly quickly. It is capable of incredible things with good degrees of protection. However, I feel like it just dies to a lot of stuff. So the Chalice was very bad. It is just a card that I physically cannot answer in my deck. The same is true of Vexing Bauble, and that was something that I had previously identified as something that would make Oops All Spells considerably worse. So, like, despite the fact that it is picking up a bunch of good new cards for the archetype, which doesn't tend to happen here, the fact that it is coming around in a time period where every Urza Saga deck is going to have access to Vexing Bauble, and some decks might just be playing it as a game 1 prison piece, that is rough. I think this is a very well-constructed deck. I like how the pieces move together. I was a little unsure about some of the sideboarding stuff throughout the league. Generally speaking, I give the deck building here a massive thumbs up, and I give the metagame positioning a pretty big thumbs down. If my blue-black opponents are all going to be on like Grief, Force of Will, Force of Vigor, maybe Mindbreak Trap or Flusterstorm, and they can just like reanimate my spies and informers and kill me, I don't think this is a super viable deck in the metagame as a whole. Maybe if you're an Oops expert, you'll be, perfectly fine, but I don't know that I would be recommending this to random people to pick up and learn the format with or anything like that. All right, folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and should you need some magic cards, Tales of Adventures is a fantastic place to shop. Promo code ThrabenU saves you a bit on your order. All right, see ya.